The Wehrmacht Logistics Intelligence Briefing that reached Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel's OKW headquarters in Berlin during March 1945 contained uniform production statistics that seemed to defy every principle of textile manufacturing and military supply capacity. The classified document claimed that American factories had produced and shipped over 50 million military uniforms to Allied forces worldwide since Pearl Harbor, suggesting production capabilities that violated fundamental assumptions about precision textile construction and wartime clothing manufacturing limitations. This is supply propaganda designed to exaggerate Allied logistics capabilities, Field Marshal Keitel declared to his quartermaster staff, studying reconnaissance photographs of American textile plants that showed uniform production operations spanning entire industrial districts. Military uniforms require specialized tailoring that cannot be mass-produced like civilian clothing. No nation possesses the textile capacity to manufacture 50 million precision military uniforms. These Americans must be including civilian work clothes and training garments in their military uniform statistics. These were experienced German logistics officers who understood uniform production through decades of military tailoring and strategic supply management that had created Europe's most disciplined military appearance through systematic precision and quality standards. The concept of mass-produced military uniforms seemed to violate fundamental principles of textile manufacturing that demanded individual attention over assembly speed. They could not fathom they were witnessing the greatest uniform production achievement in military history, or that American textile factories would demonstrate how democratic industrial organization could manufacture military clothing at rates that would overwhelm German supply limitations through unprecedented logistical abundance that rendered individual uniform quality strategically irrelevant against unlimited American textile resources. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel stood within the Wehrmacht uniform depot in Berlin, embodying German confidence in military appearance through innovative textile design and systematic clothing standards. As chief of the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, Keitel represented German assumptions about uniform quality triumphing over quantity through superior tailoring, individual garment excellence, and professional military standards that had established German armed forces' appearance discipline. German uniform production that Keitel understood included meticulous tailoring, individual attention to military specifications, and systematic quality control that created superior military clothing through careful construction and material optimization. German textile factories produced uniforms like precision military equipment rather than mass-manufactured garments, emphasizing technological excellence over production volume through artisanal manufacturing approaches that prioritized individual uniform perfection. The sophisticated clothing systems that German military employed included advanced field uniforms, innovative combat gear, and specialized military textiles that represented pinnacle achievements in military tailoring through systematic development and operational experience. German engineering had solved complex textile challenges that produced uniforms exceeding Allied clothing through individual excellence and precision manufacturing. Intelligence analysis of Allied uniform production suggested enemy forces remained constrained by conventional textile limitations, tailoring capacity requirements, and supply chain bottlenecks that prevented massive clothing expansion. German logistics planners calculated that Allied uniform production would require decades to match German textile capabilities while maintaining acceptable military appearance standards through traditional manufacturing methods. Strategic doctrine that incorporated German uniform advantages, assumed quality superiority, would enable continued military effectiveness through superior clothing performance and systematic appearance training. Democratic armies could allegedly never achieve rapid expansion and quantity-focused uniform approaches, while maintaining individual garment excellence that characterized German military appearance through precision tailoring and professional clothing development. Economic calculations performed by German textile economists revealed Allied manufacturing capacity divided between civilian clothing production and limited military requirements, suggesting resource constraints that prevented total conversion to military uniform manufacturing. Fabric allocation and skilled tailoring technicians appeared insufficient for massive uniform production programs requiring specialized textile engineering and precision manufacturing techniques. Cultural assumptions about American uniform industrial organization suggested inefficient production methods and profit-motivated rather than strategically focused approaches that would prevent systematic military clothing manufacturing. German military ideology characterized democratic industry as wasteful and disorganized compared to German systematic efficiency and specialized textile technological discipline that prioritized individual uniform quality. Combat statistics from well-uniformed German operations seem to validate German assumptions about military appearance, effectiveness, and disciplinary advantages over Allied supply-dependent forces worldwide. German military units had achieved remarkable operational success through superior uniform standards and systematic appearance training that appeared impossible for mass-produced enemy clothing to match through quantity alone. Appearance philosophy that German military forces emphasized included individual uniform excellence, clothing proficiency development, and systematic appearance experience accumulation that created disciplined military units through rigorous selection and professional advancement. German forces prioritized quality over quantity in both uniforms and appearance, reflecting confidence that superior individual standards would achieve victory through textile and disciplinary advantages. Sidney Hillman, Associate Director of the Office of Production Management, walked through the sprawling Burlington Mills facilities, observing revolutionary production techniques that would transform uniform manufacturing through industrial mass production methods adapted for military warfare. The civilian textile administrator was applying innovative production expertise to sophisticated clothing construction with systematic efficiency that would fundamentally challenge German assumptions about uniform manufacturing limitations. The military uniform program that American industry developed represented complete departure from traditional clothing manufacturing that emphasized individual tailoring over systematic mass production for military operations. American uniform design prioritized durability, reliability, functional effectiveness, and assembly line production capability rather than appearance sophistication alone, enabling manufacturing rates that completely exceeded German textile industrial calculations and strategic planning assumptions. Assembly line techniques that American textile companies employed included revolutionary garment production methods systematically adapted for complex uniform manufacturing through organized workflow, standardized components, and continuous production that eliminated traditional clothing manufacturing bottlenecks. American industrial experience had created unprecedented manufacturing efficiency that surpassed specialized uniform production through civilian innovation applied to military textile engineering. Workforce mobilization supporting uniform production included revolutionary numbers of women entering precision tailoring while maintaining comprehensive training programs that created skilled workers adequate for complex clothing assembly operations. Democratic educational systems produced abundant human resources through competitive instruction, merit-based advancement, and systematic textile manufacturing skills development that exceeded traditional uniform production workforce limitations. Supply chain coordination across American uniform manufacturing included specialized fabric delivery from multiple continental sources, military specifications from dedicated suppliers, and thousands of textile components from hundreds of manufacturers whose production was synchronized through systematic logistics management. Materials coordination exceeded German organizational capabilities through democratic industrial cooperation and competitive resource allocation that enabled unprecedented uniform production rates. Quality control procedures ensured uniform reliability through systematic testing protocols, continuous inspection processes, and rigorous performance validation that maintained military effectiveness while enabling unprecedented mass production rates. American uniform manufacturing had achieved consistent quality through scientific methods rather than traditional individual tailoring attention, proving that systematic approaches could maintain military standards while enabling mass production. Innovation acceleration continued throughout uniform development as American engineers continuously improved clothing specifications while maintaining aggressive production schedules that traditional methods could never sustain. Competitive pressure encouraged rapid advancement that exceeded conventional textile development cycles while ensuring manufacturing compatibility and sustained production capability that traditional approaches could never achieve. Strategic planning that incorporated massive uniform deployment included comprehensive military clothing, tactical doctrine development, and operational coordination that would maximize textile effectiveness across global theaters. American military strategy integrated production advantages into comprehensive campaign planning that assumed virtually unlimited uniform availability and continuous supply capability. Manufacturing excellence that uniform production achieved included durability, reliability, functional performance, and textile effectiveness that exceeded traditional clothing development while maintaining mass production compatibility. American industry had proven that systematic manufacturing could produce effective uniforms without sacrificing performance, demonstrating democratic advantages in combining adequate technology with industrial abundance through competitive innovation. April 1945. German intelligence documentation of American uniform production revealed supply statistics that challenged every fundamental assumption about textile manufacturing and industrial possibility worldwide. American factories were producing over 2 million military uniforms monthly while maintaining simultaneous production across hundreds of facilities that collectively exceeded total German clothing manufacturing capacity by incomprehensible margins that seemed mathematically impossible. Mathematical analysis that German uniform planners performed revealed American textile production approaching 50 million total uniforms since Pearl Harbor, while German clothing production struggled to maintain 5 million uniforms across all textile plants and facilities. Enemy industrial capabilities had achieved systematic abundance that completely violated traditional assumptions about precision, uniform manufacturing complexity, and specialized tailoring engineering requirements. Statistical verification through multiple intelligence sources confirmed American uniform production that included standardized textile products, revolutionary garment manufacturing, and systematic quality control that enabled mathematically impossible production rates for military clothing. Enemy manufacturing had achieved unprecedented efficiency that exceeded German uniform industrial organization through democratic, competitive methods and civilian textile expertise applied to military production. Photographic reconnaissance of American textile facilities revealed production techniques that completely eliminated individual tailoring craftsmanship in favor of systematic manufacturing approaches directly adapted from civilian clothing, industry methods for military applications. Democratic uniform industrial organization had achieved military production through competitive rather than centralized authoritarian methods and systematic resource optimization. Economic calculations demonstrated American uniform expenditure that exceeded entire German textile budgets, while simultaneously maintaining civilian clothing production and comprehensive international assistance programs. Democratic capitalism had achieved resource abundance that centralized command economy methods could never duplicate through systematic efficiency and competitive innovation in uniform manufacturing that rendered German economic assumptions obsolete. Supply chain analysis revealed American uniform manufacturing coordinated across continental distances with textile flows that dramatically exceeded German logistical capabilities and organizational systems. Enemy industrial organization demonstrated systematic coordination that exceeded authoritarian central planning through competitive cooperation and democratic resource allocation methods in clothing production that achieved efficiency through civilian expertise. Technology assessment based on captured American uniform samples revealed manufacturing quality that maintained military effectiveness while being produced in quantities that German industry considered physically impossible without sacrificing performance specifications. Mass production had achieved consistent reliability through systematic scientific methods rather than individual attention and specialized approaches that characterized German uniform manufacturing philosophy. Performance analysis of recovered American clothing demonstrated that mass production had achieved durability, reliability, functional effectiveness, and textile performance that proved adequate for warfare while being manufactured at impossible scales. Systematic engineering had proven effective in producing functional uniforms through competitive innovation and scientific manufacturing approaches rather than traditional tailoring craftsmanship. The statistical impossibility had become undeniable strategic reality that forced German acknowledgement of democratic advantages in uniform industrial organization that exceeded authoritarian alternatives through competitive efficiency and systematic abundance in textile production that would fundamentally alter military logistics through clothing superiority rather than individual technological excellence. June 1944. The massive Allied landing operations at Normandy revealed devastating effectiveness of American uniform production, as over 150,000 properly equipped soldiers participated in D-Day while maintaining textile reserves that exceeded German total clothing capacity. The mathematical superiority of American manufacturing had translated into overwhelming logistical dominance that rendered German supply philosophy strategically obsolete through systematic uniform abundance. Tactical deployment that American uniform abundance enabled included multiple infantry divisions operating simultaneously across European theaters while maintaining clothing capabilities that German forces could never counter, despite individual uniform superiority and appearance training advantages. American production had eliminated traditional textile constraints through systematic abundance and continuous clothing supply that exceeded conventional military logistics limitations. German military commanders discovered logistical situations where disrupting individual uniform supplies achieved minimal strategic impact because American textile reserves exceeded German interdiction capabilities through numerical abundance. Mathematical relationships had shifted decisively toward Allied forces through clothing capacity rather than individual logistical effectiveness or supply excellence that had characterized traditional military supply approaches. Combat statistics from sustained European operations documented German clothing shortages that could not support extended campaigns, while Allied forces maintained operational strength through continuous uniform production and systematic textile replacement programs. Clothing abundance had created tactical sustainability that exceeded German response possibilities and resource allocation capabilities through democratic textile organization. Intelligence analysis by German logistics commands revealed American uniform capabilities that dramatically exceeded strategic planning assumptions, while demonstrating textile organization that surpassed authoritarian efficiency through democratic competitive methods. Enemy capabilities had achieved systematic advantages that traditional military logistics could not anticipate or counter effectively through conventional supply conservation tactics. Psychological impact on German military personnel included recognition that individual supply excellence could not influence strategic outcomes when facing opponents with unlimited uniform capabilities and continuous textile reinforcement. Tactical clothing efficiency had become strategically meaningless against American production abundance and systematic uniform deployment that exceeded traditional military logistics mathematics. Operational advantages that American uniform production provided included clothing availability, supply replacement, and sustained logistical capability that maintained military effectiveness under extended campaigns across multiple theaters. Systematic textile operations exceeded German capabilities despite clothing conservation advantages and theoretically superior supply coordination. Supply capabilities that uniform abundance enabled included sustained operational deployment, continuous clothing support, and logistical flexibility that German forces could never counter through individual conservation excellence. American production had created operational sustainability that exceeded traditional textile limitations through systematic abundance and clothing adequacy. The uniformed Allied deployment demonstrated American textile production had fundamentally altered military logistics mathematics through uniform capabilities that rendered traditional supply conservation obsolete when facing systematic abundance combined with adequate performance and continuous clothing supply capability. May 8, 1945. As Nazi Germany surrendered unconditionally following complete Allied logistical superiority, the final accounting of American uniform production revealed numbers that had redefined military supply. Over 50 million military uniforms manufactured through revolutionary textile methods that averaged 150,000 completed garments daily at peak production, creating clothing capabilities that had overwhelmed German supply conservation through unprecedented systematic abundance. Strategic validation that American uniform production provided confirmed industrial mobilization as the decisive factor in modern military logistics, while demonstrating democratic advantages in manufacturing organization, resource allocation, and technological application that exceeded totalitarian alternatives through competitive innovation and systematic efficiency optimization. Democratic textile industrial organization had proven superior to authoritarian approaches through mathematical evidence that could not be disputed. Field Marshal Keitel's post-war acknowledgement included recognition that German uniform discipline had been strategically defeated by American production capabilities that exceeded every calculation of democratic industrial potential and textile manufacturing capacity. Mass production manufacturing had rendered individual clothing excellence strategically irrelevant through overwhelming supply superiority and coordinated uniform deployment that exceeded traditional military appearance approaches. Economic efficiency that American uniform production achieved included dramatic cost reduction through volume manufacturing, while maintaining textile effectiveness that exceeded traditional clothing development methods. Competitive capitalism had proven systematically superior to command economy organization for sustained uniform production and technological advancement across global operations through democratic resource allocation and competitive innovation processes. International cooperation through American uniform deployment included comprehensive textile transfers to Allied forces that enhanced collective operational capabilities while demonstrating American production capacity far beyond domestic requirements. Democratic values had created sustainable assistance through systematic clothing sharing and strategic generosity programs that exceeded traditional military alliance approaches through competitive manufacturing. Technological legacy of American uniform production influenced post-war textile industry through revolutionary manufacturing techniques, systematic clothing principles, and scientific quality control methods that transformed global uniform production standards. Scientific advancement had created lasting advantages through systematic research and competitive innovation processes that exceeded traditional textile approaches through civilian garment expertise applied to military production. Supply systems that uniform abundance enabled included accelerated logistical programs, adequate clothing availability for training, and systematic textile development that created supply resources sufficient for expanded military capabilities. American logistics education had produced uniform personnel through competitive instruction and merit-based advancement that exceeded traditional conservation development approaches. Manufacturing innovation that enabled American uniform success demonstrated democratic society's ability to coordinate massive textile resources through systematic planning and competitive efficiency rather than authoritarian control. Democratic systems had produced clothing capabilities that exceeded totalitarian alternatives through systematic coordination, competitive innovation, and merit-based operational advancement that proved democratic advantages. The textile triumph had proven that democratic industrial organization could achieve systematic advantages over traditional supply conservation through competitive innovation, systematic manufacturing, and abundant production that totalitarian uniform systems could never match through centralized control, individual tailoring, or authoritarian resource allocation alone in textile manufacturing and military logistics. If this incredible story of how American textile production overwhelmed German supply conservation through systematic abundance amazed you, make sure to subscribe for more tales of democratic logistical triumph.